Yo, 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 what is up, legends? You won't believe what just went down in the world of hip-hop and sports. Drake is flipping out like never before, and it's all because Serena Williams, the queen herself, has betrayed him for none other than Kendrick Lamar. I mean, we're talking about one of the biggest beefs in the game right now. This isn't just a petty squabble, folks, it's a full-on war. And trust me, you don't want to miss the insane drama that's about to unfold. Why did Drake lose it? What did Serena do to set him off? And how the heck did Kendrick Lamar become the middleman in this mess? We're diving deep, breaking down all the shots fired, the secrets revealed, and the shocking truth behind this wild feud. Let's break it down. Drake just learned a hard lesson that Kendrick Lamar is definitely not someone you want to have beef with. Kendrick is proving to be the pettiest rapper in the game, and it's something Drake is now painfully aware of. As if it wasn't embarrassing enough to lose not one, not two, but 5 Grammys to Kendrick for the diss track Not Like Us, the humiliation didn't stop there. Kendrick turned the heat up by performing the very same track at the Super Bowl, making sure the world knew exactly who the superior artist was. Drake probably wasn't expecting all that, but Kendrick has a way of rubbing his wins in, and this time, he took it to a whole new level. But wait, that's not even the full story. Kendrick took it to another level during his performance by bringing up none other than Serena Williams to perform the bot dance. As he tore into Drake with every bar, he made sure to highlight his point in the most dramatic way possible. The crowd was completely stunned, and let me tell you, Kendrick had everyone absolutely gagged. The energy, the theatrics, and the way he effortlessly blended his diss with Serena's performance, it was a moment that no one saw coming. Drake didn't just take an L on the track, Kendrick made sure he felt it on the biggest stage, leaving everyone in awe of how far he was willing to go to deliver his message. However, it seemed like Drake wasn't having any of it when Kendrick brought his ex on stage. He totally flipped out, making it clear that the beef was far from over. Drake didn't hold back. He made a bold declaration that the feud was officially reignited, and you could feel the tension rising. So the big question now is, what's next? Is Drake going to hit the studio and come out swinging with another diss track? We all know he's got the bars for it, but is he ready to take this to another level? And then there's the mystery of how Kendrick managed to convince Serena to get involved in this whole drama. How did he pull that off? It's not every day you see a tennis legend in the middle of a rap feud. Let's break it all down and see where this rivalry might go from here. Alright, so let's get into it. First off, it probably wasn't that hard for Kendrick to get Serena on stage. In fact, given the tension between her and Drake, I wouldn't be shocked if she practically begged Kendrick to let her be part of this moment. Serena's never been one to hold back her feelings, and let's just say, her history with Drake isn't exactly a warm and fuzzy one. Honestly, it's almost like she was waiting for an opportunity like this to air out her own frustrations with him. And let's not forget, this isn't the first time she's been caught dancing to Kendrick's diss track. Y'all remember that iconic tyke walk she did when presenting at the ESPYs last year? That was a moment in itself, and it's clear she's been down to vibe to Kendrick's energy for a while now. So yeah, this probably felt like the perfect moment for Serena to have her say, without even needing to say a word. Serena's presentation at the ESPYs had absolutely nothing to do with Kendrick or Drake, but somehow she managed to sneak in a little moment that felt like a direct shot. It was almost like she couldn't resist the opportunity to take a jab, even though the focus wasn't on that drama. I mean, how could we forget that iconic Strauss walk if that wasn't just a dance, it was a statement? And here's the thing, y'all. Serena doesn't just dislike Drake, she really hates him. Their relationship has been far from friendly, and if you follow the backstory, it's clear there's a lot of unresolved tension there. So when she did that walk, it wasn't just for show, it was a calculated move. Serena might be a tennis champion, but when it comes to Drake, she's got her own way of serving up some serious shade. But what exactly went down between Serena and Drake to make her this angry? Well, for those who might not know, Drake and Serena used to date back in the day. Things seemed pretty casual at first, but once they broke up, that's when things started to get messy. Instead of moving on like most people would, Drake couldn't seem to get over it. Instead of just letting things go, he made it his personal mission to humiliate her in any way he could. He took every opportunity to throw subtle, and sometimes not so subtle, digs at her, making the whole situation far uglier than it needed to be. This kind of behavior isn't exactly new for Drake either. He has a troubling pattern of crashing out every time a woman turns him down. It's almost like a vendetta. He spends years taking shots and making sure the world knows how he feels. This type of emotional baggage has followed him throughout his career, and it's no surprise that Serena, being the strong and independent woman she is, wasn't having any of it. She wasn't about to let him get away with disrespecting her, which is probably why she's been so vocal, whether directly or indirectly, about her feelings toward him. And it seems like even years later, Drake's actions are still haunting him in the form of Serena's public shade. We've seen Drake doing this for years, especially when it comes to Rihanna. Even though they broke up a long time ago, he just can't seem to let go of their past. Instead of moving on, he's been throwing constant, not so subtle shade at her, and even at her current partner, A$AP Rocky, for no reason. It's like he's stuck in the past, and no matter how much time passes, he still feels the need to keep taking jabs. The most frustrating part? Rihanna hasn't paid him any attention since their split. She's been living her best life with her career, her family, and ADAP, yet Drake continues to make her the subject of his diss tracks and public remarks. It's honestly baffling. You'd think that by now, he'd get the message that she's moved on and that there's no need to keep dragging her into his drama. But nope, he just keeps going on and on, as if he's obsessed with keeping their relationship alive in the public eye, even if it's just through negativity. It's almost as if Drake's inability to let go of these past relationships is fueling his entire career at this point. Drake's obsession with women in the industry certainly didn't end with Rihanna. In fact, his infatuation extended to other celebrities, with one of the most awkward and cringeworthy situations being his prolonged fascination with Halle Berry. For years, Drake made no secret of his admiration for Halle, openly expressing his feelings in interviews, on social media, and in his music. He was relentless, constantly dropping hints and making it clear that he was into her. But despite his obvious persistence, Halle, who clearly wasn't interested, repeatedly ignored his advances. She didn't reciprocate those feelings, and instead of respecting her boundaries, Drake just kept pushing forward, as if his desire alone should have been enough. The most uncomfortable part of this whole situation, instead of taking the hint and moving on, Drake didn't just stop. He doubled down. He kept making questionable comments about her, and at times, those remarks crossed into downright inappropriate territory. His behavior bordered on obsession, and it wasn't just harmless flirtation, it was clear that he wasn't taking no for an answer. Drake's failure to recognize when he's overstepping his boundaries with women has been a consistent pattern throughout his career, and his interactions with Halle Berry are just another example of this troubling trend. It's as if he believes that persistence will eventually wear down a woman's resistance, but it only ends up making him look more desperate and disrespectful. One of the most cringeworthy moments in this entire saga came when Halle Berry announced her pregnancy. Now, you'd expect a simple, gracious congratulations from anyone in that situation, something respectful and supportive, as is typical when a public figure shares such personal news. But not with Drake. Instead of offering any kind of genuine well wishes like a normal person would, he saw it as yet another chance to make a comment that had no business being made. Instead of respecting the moment and allowing Halle to enjoy her news without being dragged back into his unwanted attention, Drake couldn't resist inserting himself into the narrative. He made a remark that not only came across as inappropriate, but also unnecessary considering the context. It was almost as if he couldn't let go of the fantasy he had created about her and felt the need to inject himself into every chapter of her life, regardless of whether she welcomed it. His comment was a clear reminder that he just doesn't know when to quit, and it left a lot of people cringing in disbelief. It was a textbook example of how Drake's behavior, especially when it comes to women in the industry, can sometimes border on obsessive and tone-deaf. Drake didn't stop at just making random, inappropriate comments about Halle Berry. He took it a step further by name, dropping her in a couple of his songs. And let's be real here, he didn't do it in any way that could be considered flattering or respectful. Instead of giving her the kind of attention she deserved, Drake's lyrics made it clear that he had an obsessive fixation on her that went beyond admiration. It was uncomfortable. The way he inserted her name into his music wasn't just a subtle reference, it felt like an invasion of her privacy. It wasn't even the type of name dropping that could be seen as a tribute or acknowledgement of her talent or beauty. No, it came across as more of a twisted, lingering fixation, almost as if he was trying to stake a claim on her, even though she had shown no interest in him. The lyrics themselves were unsettling, crossing the line from admiration to something much more intrusive. And the worst part? It wasn't a one-off. He kept doing it, repeatedly. It was like he just couldn't let go. Even though he was making everyone around him, including his fans, feel awkward, it felt as though he was trying to continue a narrative that she clearly wasn't a part of, and in doing so, he made her the target of his unwanted attention in a very public, very uncomfortable way. One of the most glaring examples of Drake's unsettling obsession with Halle Berry came in his verse on Migos' Versace remix, where he rapped, "Take a famous girl out where there's no paparazzi, I'm trying to give Halle Berry a baby, and no one can stop me." Now, if that doesn't scream creepy, I don't know what does. This wasn't just a playful or flirty line. It was something much darker and more uncomfortable. It wasn't charming or clever in the least. In fact, it felt more like an overstep, an unwanted and unnecessary public declaration of his fixation on her. There he was, casually rapping about trying to have a baby with Halle Berry, even though she had never shown any romantic interest in him. This wasn't some fantasy he kept to himself. He made it a very public, almost possessive statement. He wasn't just admiring her from afar. He was actively placing himself in a situation where he believed he had some kind of claim over her, as if his desires were more important than her feelings or autonomy. What made it even more uncomfortable was the fact that Halle had never expressed any desire to be involved with him in any way. Yet, Drake continued to insert himself into her life and made her her the focal point of his lyrics, not as an equal, but as an object of his obsession. It wasn't even a subtle reference. It was a direct fantasy, one that quite frankly crossed a boundary and put Halle in a position where she was being fantasized about in a way that was inappropriate and unsettling. This wasn't just a celebrity crush gone public, it was an example of how Drake's behavior can come across as possessive and intrusive. Things took an even stranger turn when Drake decided to use a picture of Halle Berry as the cover art for his song Slime You Out, featuring SZA from his album For All the Dogs. Now, most artists would opt for a more fitting image to match the theme of the song, maybe something that reflects the mood, the vibe, or the overall message of the track. But Drake, he chose to go with something completely offbeat and uncomfortable. Instead of picking a generic photo or something that made sense within the context of the song, he picked a throwback image of Halle from the 2012 Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, where she got slimed. Now, at first glance, it might seem like a quirky, random choice, but when you dig a little deeper, it starts to feel way more intentional and a lot more bizarre. The photo wasn't just a cute or lighthearted moment from Halle's past, it was a moment where she was publicly humiliated and doused in green slime, something most people would rather forget. And yet, Drake thought it would be a great idea to slap this image on the cover of his song, which was already a questionable track to begin with. What's so odd about this move is the fact that Halle Berry had absolutely no control over how she was portrayed in this cover art. It wasn't just a random snapshot, it was a reminder of a time when she was put in an awkward, uncomfortable position, and Drake turned it into the face of his song. It's almost as if he was making a statement about his obsession with her, further underscoring his tendency to insert her into his narrative in a way that felt exploitative. The choice of this particular image didn't just feel like an innocent nod to pop culture, it felt like another way for Drake to publicly claim ownership of her. Even though she had shown no interest in him, it was a moment that took things from awkward to borderline disturbing, turning what could have been a fun, carefree track into yet another reminder of Drake's unrelenting, uncomfortable fixation. What made that situation even weirder was that Drake had actually asked Halle for permission to use her picture before, and she said no. So, it was incredibly strange that he went ahead and used it anyway. But honestly, this is just typical Drake behavior, right? Well, unsurprisingly, Drake did the same thing to Serena Williams, and that's a big part of why she can't stand him. He seems to have a real issue with women moving on, especially when they've left him behind. Not only has Serena moved on, but she's also happily married with 2 kids. So, what exactly did he do or say about Serena? Last year, Drake unexpectedly dropped a huge 100-gigabyte stash of content on a mysterious site called 100gigs.org. And how did he announce it? Not through his official channels, but through his secret burner Instagram account, Plot Twist, which he'd been quietly updating since late June. This wasn't just some random collection of files, it was a goldmine. The data dump included unreleased tracks featuring artists like Young Thug, 21 Savage, and Latto. But that was just the start. Fans also got a rare behind-the-scenes look at Drake's creative process, with never-before-seen footage of him working on some of his most iconic albums, including Take Care, Views, and Certified Lover Boy. But wait, there's more. As if the 100-gigabyte drop wasn't wild enough, Drake also slipped in some extra tea for the fans. Among all that footage was a clip of him working on Too Good with Rihanna, where he casually revealed that the song wasn't actually about her, but about his other ex, Serena Williams. And to make it even funnier, Drake wasn't confessing this to some industry insider or close friend. He was casually spilling all this to his mom, Sandra, like it was no big deal. For some context, Serena and Drake had the rumor mill buzzing all the way back in 2010 with whispers of a romance. But, like with Rihanna, Serena never actually claimed him. She kept it cute and unconfirmed, while Drake, as always, was out here acting like a lovesick puppy. Fast forward to today, and Serena is happily married to Reddit co-founder Alexis Ohanian, and they've built a beautiful life together with their 2 adorable daughters. Now, remember how I mentioned that Drake has a habit of flipping the script on women who rejected him? Well, Serena wasn't an exception. For years, he was so over the top in his admiration for her that GQ magazine straight up called him Serena's most embarrassing groupie. And honestly, they weren't wrong. But the moment Serena made it official with Alexis, Drake's energy totally shifted. Instead of moving on like a mature adult, he decided to get petty. He took a shot at Alexis, calling him Serena's groupie, as if he hadn't spent years pining for her in the most embarrassing way possible.